Dawn Schuler welcoming you to So What's Your Big Idea Anyway? And we're working with all the technical, we won't call them difficulties, we'll just call them little thingies. And I'm really excited to share with you some things that could help you get past whatever could be holding you back so that you can really get your big idea out into the world. So for those of you who don't know me or don't remember, who the heck is this chick? I'm Dawn Schuler. I'm the Soulful Business Coach at smartbusinessfromyoursoul.com. And I have been working with small business owners and entrepreneurs since 2002. And as an entrepreneur myself, I've had hundreds of ideas. Some of those ideas have gotten birthed into the world, others didn't. And even others morphed into something else that did end up getting birthed. What I know is that some of those ideas that didn't go anywhere, part of it was because of me, because I was afraid. That whole fear of success, fear of failure, fear of rejection, big fear of what will people think of me. Other times it was because it just felt really hard. And honestly, it was just easier to do nothing. So then that big idea just went nowhere. It just died. Whoa, yikes, I don't want that for you. It's awful. Here's why. Because for those true big ideas, and I'll talk about what I believe a big idea is. For that true big idea, it's actually you. It's you manifesting out into the world. And what I believe about you is that you are unique and different and amazing. And that uniqueness and difference is what you need to embrace and claim and stop camouflaging. Because it's that uniqueness and uniqueness and amazingness and difference that when you embrace it, will make a big positive difference in your business. All right, so let's get started. Back to those technical difficulties, like I said, or easities. We'll just call it that, easities. All right, so here we go. So again, welcome to What's Your Big Idea Anyway? A little bit of information, of course, about me. But where I want to start, I'm sorry to say, is with the fear. And you have to get past that fear. To me, that's the biggest thing, whether it's that fear of success, fear of failure, we'll go over the 3 most common fears, or whether it's just the fear of getting started, whatever, you really have to get past it. So here's what I'm going to cover today. First is what might be holding you back from getting started. This is your big idea. You're excited about it. It's amazing. It's fun. It's awesome. So why aren't you just who knows? Let's go back to that screen share because that's where I wanted to be in the first place. So if you ever wonder what happens, you know, in the background, then sometimes it's interesting to make these things work. So, and I'm about to do it again because I'm having there. That was my trouble. All right. So that If any of that sounds like you, those aren't your actual problems. It's that you actually haven't figured out how to tap into how to align that big goal, that big idea, with your bigger purpose. That's what's really key. That's what you really want to do. All right, so trying to get back to our slides. There we go. Goodness graciousness. All right, so let's talk about your big idea. I'm going to define what that is. To me, that big idea is the one that encapsulates you and that really makes up you and the work that you do in the world. It's what helps make up your big purpose, the reason you're here on the planet and doing the work you're doing. It's the thing that makes you all giggly and funny feeling in your stomach. It excites you and scares the crap out of you at the same time. It's big and it's important. Here are some examples of big ideas. And if you don't hear yours in the list, that doesn't mean that yours isn't a big idea. It just means there are so many big ideas. I'll start with the easy one. It could be a book. It could be a workbook. It could be an oracle deck. It could be a quiz or an assessment. It could be a video series. It could be a new group program. It could be an in-person workshop. It could be a retreat. It could be the best damn blog series you could think of because you're going to help people change the world. See, and that's the piece I want to get to. It's that, this is going to help change the world. Maybe just one ripple at a time and maybe just in your way. But we know just affecting one person can make a huge difference. All right, so let's dive in. What might be holding you back from getting started? So the top 3 fears that I see when I'm working with small businesses and entrepreneurs is these are the top 3 fears that come up. Doesn't mean that there aren't any others. These just happen to be the top 3. So one is fear of failure. Well, what happens if you put yourself out there and you fail? 2, fear of commitment. How much work and time and energy are you actually going to have to put into this thing? And then 3, fear of actually starting down that path of your big purpose, what you're meant to do here on the planet. And here's where we can really get tripped up. If your big idea is one step on that big purpose path, what if you're wrong? What if it's a detour on that path? What if you're wrong about your big purpose? What if you're wrong about your big idea? See how we can do this mind screw to actually really derail us? It's almost as if the bigger the idea, the bigger the fear. I know you've heard about fears before. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of rejection, blah, blah, blah. But before you dismiss it or go, oh yeah, I've heard about all that, really take a look at yourself. Could any of these be real for you? So in my years of working with people in all sorts of ways, I've had a lot of people come to me for help. And I offered really fabulous things, whether it was private coaching with me or a training or a retreat, and they just shied away. I presented at the eWomen Publishing Conference when they had their big annual conference back in 2008 and 2009. So in 2008, I'm presenting, I'm at my booth, and this chick comes up, she's in her 30s, and she said, you know, I want to write this book about my experience because, you know, good grief, I'm 30, and I really thought I'd be married by now. So we chatted, and I said, you know, that's a great title for a book. I really thought I'd be married by now. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're right. And she was so excited. Fast forward a year to 2009. I'm presenting at my booth. She comes up to me and she says, yeah, I still haven't done anything with that book yet. Why not? Another story, and this is a fairly recent one. There's a woman, she's a friend of mine, and she knows that one of the things I do is I help people with their content, and sometimes in the form of books. And she's been saying for years how there's this book she wants to write about her experience as an abused wife for 20 years. She's been talking about it. A lot of people talk about writing books, whatever. And then a few weeks ago, she comes to me and she says, Dawn, I've got people in my life whom I love, and they're suffering because they're in abusive relationships. And I know I have to get this book out there. Because if just one person reads it, or one person reads an article about the book, and it helps them, I've really made a difference. Dawn, can you help me? And I said, hey, I have this retreat coming up that's going to give you this safe, sacred space, only 10 people. I'll be there. I'll help you work one-on-one. We can start that. She's, oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. Give me the details. So I give her all the details, the dates, the pricing, where it is. And she says, yep, that sounds great. I'm going to start making those, get everything in line so I can pay for it. Talk to me on Monday and I'll have it all figured out. Okay, great. So I talked to her on Monday and she says, I've got this bill and I've got that bill and, I got to pay my taxes and I just don't know. No, I don't think I'm going to do it. Now, do you really think it was because she had this bill and taxes? No. It's because the idea of actually moving forward with that scared the crap out of her. So she decided not to do it, at least for now. The next thing I see that gets in the way is it feels so hard. And yes, you have to do it with a whiny voice because that's really what it is. You're whining. And not to make you feel bad, because I've certainly hit this space too, is if it feels too hard, you're not going to do it. So my job, everything I do is how can we break this down to make that next step easier? So here are my top 5 favorite ways of breaking down a project into manageable steps and making that next step easy. So the first thing I do is just get my notebook, old-fashioned paper notebook and a pen, and get out of the office. And I just do a big, huge brain dump. This works when you make an appointment with yourself. You've got to get away from distractions and let your big idea come to the front of the line, because it's been pushed back. It's not your turn yet, not your turn. Go to the back of the line, go to the back of the line. And if you're at your office or in front of your computer, even in front of your phone, you start writing down some ideas, some things, and then you go, oh, that's, wow, that's getting a little scary. I don't know if I can do it. Let me go see if there are any cute cat pictures and videos on Facebook. So if you take yourself out of your office, away from those distractions, you're sort of forced to pay attention to your big idea. And then you just write everything down in your notebook. My next way of breaking down a project is to start with the why. Why is this big idea so important? Why is it a big idea and not just a regular old idea? Because when you can connect to that why, it's much easier to stay motivated. Next is to really look at what's in it for them, meaning the people you're creating this big idea for, your target market. You need to answer this because they'll be asking that question. Why should I do this? What's in it for me? Why should I read the book? Why should I buy the card deck? Why should I go to the retreat? Why should I do the group training program? Why should I do any of that or any of the thing that you're trying to put out into the world? What's in it for them? Next is scheduling time every day. Since the beginning of this year, I have been starting my day with my first priority. That's even before I check email, before I check social media. I just get started right away on my first priority. And it makes a huge difference. So what if you did something like that? What if you scheduled just a little bit of time, 15 minutes? What if that was the first thing you did every day, 15 minutes? And you did whatever action was next. And then that's the last one, which is breaking down each and every step to getting your project, your big idea, out into the world. And this is every single action. This is every possible step. Because then if it's just brainstorm ideas for a card deck title, that's easy. You can do that in 15 minutes and it's an easy step. Boom, okay, let me brainstorm. And you've done it. That's an easy thing. The problem is these big ideas, because they're big in importance, and sometimes they're big in scope, is they're so big we don't know how to get started. We don't know what to do. We don't know, what if there's 5 million steps? Remember that fear of commitment? Well, maybe there are 5 million steps, but you're going to get it done by doing one step at a time. So what's one step? One very small baby step that you can do. All right. So the third thing I told you I was going to share with you today was why it's imperative for you to get your big idea out into the world. And it's because that big idea is probably connected to your big goal, the big thing you want to do. And if you can't connect your big idea to your big goals, then it's actually not a big idea. So I have a client who owns a series of networking groups, and she's working on expanding. And it's a big project. It's a really big project, and it involves all sorts of things, including a complete website redo. And there are times where she gets a little stalled. And I have to say, so remember that big goal and big purpose of yours? No, I don't remember. Can you tell me, Dawn? Yes, it's for you to connect women all around the world. And once she remembers that, all of a sudden it seems much easier to do that big idea, that big project. Here's the thing. If you're considering a big idea for quick money, you got to generate some revenue, or it's easy, I could do this in my sleep, or everyone keeps telling you to do it. Oh my gosh, you so need to fill in the blank. Those reasons might not be good enough. It's not that those are bad reasons, but they may not be good enough reasons to be a big idea enough reason. So that's when I came up with the Big Goal Litmus Test. And this is an awesome handout. For those of you watching the recording of this, in your email recording, the email about the recording, you have a link so that you can download this. And it's a really just quick and easy and fabulous tool for really making sure that your big idea is in alignment with your big goals. So, grab that and work through it as I talk to you about the different steps. So the first step is figuring out, what are you genius at? And this idea of the 4 zones, the zone of genius, zone of excellence, zone of competence, and zone of incompetence, are based on a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And he talks about a lot of great things in the book. I really recommend that book. And just as kind of like a little byline, side thing, he talks about you really need to be only doing tasks that are in your zone of genius. And I've just quickly identified what these different zones are. Your zone of genius is the stuff that you are made to be doing. This is, you've heard that I'm in the zone. This is that kind of stuff that you're doing. It gives you energy. You could do it all day long. It's awesome. Your zone of excellence is the stuff that you're really good at, but it doesn't necessarily jazz you. It doesn't feed your soul. You can even make good money at it. And here's the kicker. People want you to be doing this because you're reliable, you're great at it, and they want you to stay in that zone of excellence because you get stuff done. But it's not your zone of genius. And then there's your zone of competence, which you're okay at it, but it takes you longer to do it, and it certainly takes more energy. Somebody else could definitely do it quicker, faster, because it might be in their zone of genius. And then zone of incompetence, oh, you just suck at it, honey. Just don't do it. It's really bad for you to be doing things in this zone. So when you're clear about what you do and what zone it falls in, especially with regard to your big idea, now you go back to the big goal litmus test and you ask yourself, if you're doing this big idea, is it in your zone of genius? If the answer is yes, great, keep going. If the answer is no, it does not use your zone of genius, then this is not your big idea. It's an idea, it might be a good idea, but it's not your big idea. All right, step 2 in the big goal litmus test is first figuring out what are your top 3 business goals. Now, I know the idea of goals might sound really left brain, logical, linear, masculine. Oh gosh, she's another one talking about goals. In my mind, goals are simply a way for you to figure out what direction to go in. It doesn't have to be all logical, linear, mathematical, but you do want to have some direction for what you're doing, especially in your business. So your goals might look like something like increasing your database to X number by the end of the year, or bringing on X number of new clients in 6 months, or generating X number of dollars by the 3rd quarter, by the end of the 3rd quarter, let's say. Now you notice what I did here. Very specific. What are those numbers? What's the number of the database? What's the number of the new clients? What's the number of the revenue? And then a date. That's how you want to establish your goals. And you probably have more than 3, but what are your top 3 business goals? Now, going back to the big goal litmus test, does your big idea, does it meet one of those top 3 goals? If the answer is yes, woohoo, keep going. If the answer is no, then this might not be the time for your particular big idea. It doesn't mean it's not a big idea. It just might mean it's not the time for this particular one. All right, step 3 is really being clear about why is your work important in the world. And you'll notice on the last page of the big goal litmus test, I ask you that question, why is your work important in the world? And there's a space for you to answer it. And then I ask you, and so why is that important? And I want you to answer that. And I want you to keep going deeper and keep asking yourself, why is that important? Why is that important? Because I want you to get to that deepest possible nugget and kernel where you go, that's it. That's why this is so important. And then you flip over to your big idea. Does your big idea help bring your work into the world and help you be of service in your unique and amazing way? If yes, woohoo, this big idea is in alignment with your big goal. Proceed. If not, the answer is no, then this is not your big idea. See, then the idea is that once you have gone through those 3 steps of the big goal litmus test, and if your big idea has passed all 3 steps, then it's actually pretty easy to stay on track with it. You're motivated, you're committed, you understand the deeper why. So now I'm going to share with you the number 1 thing that's going to prevent you from taking action. And more than likely, it's overwhelm. It's getting caught up in other things. It's not setting aside the time to do this. So I've put together the Content Creation Bootcamp so that I can take you step by step through the process of getting started. I've given you some great ideas today, some great strategies, and you might decide that you want more. The trick is you want to stop trying to do it all by yourself. Again, the biggest problem I see with coaches, consultants, virtual assistants, healers, wellness professionals, and other small business owners is that they get overwhelmed. And so they don't do anything, or their project stalls. We've all done it. I've done it. And like almost everything I've created since I've been in business for 14 and more years is to help me get past roadblocks, to help me make it easier. I'm like you. If it's too hard, I'm not going to do it. That's why I'm not necessarily doing all the quilts and that kind of thing that I've got like 11 unfinished quilts. And a lot of them, it's because the next step feels too hard. And, you know, for a quilt, that's not that big of a deal. That's not really my bigger goal, my bigger purpose in the world. But some of these other ideas, just like for you, they are important. So since I've spent a lot of time trying to break things down, make that next step easier for me, and then for my clients, that means I have processes, systems, models, exercises, templates galore to share. I've probably designed or written just about any kind of content project out there, or I've helped my clients do so. And so that means I have a template for just about anything. So remember that big idea of yours? You really want to get it out into the world, and I want to help you. So here's what you need to know about the Content Creation Bootcamp. It's a 2-week program where we meet 5 times in those 2 weeks, all online, all virtually. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to take you step by step so you don't have to do it alone. So in the bootcamp, you're going to learn how to clarify what you do in a purposeful work statement. So I showed you just a little bit in the big goal litmus test with the, why is the work that you do important in the world? I take you through a process that goes deeper and far beyond that so that you then have this purposeful work statement that goes well beyond this boot camp and whatever you're creating or starting to create in this boot camp. It's going to be your purposeful work statement. You're going to be able to refine how you speak about what you do and your USP, also known as your unique selling proposition, because you're going to start figuring out those powerful words. What makes you unique? What makes you amazing? What makes you different? And why is that important? I'm going to work with you to outline the steps to creating your content, whatever this big idea is. And because I have all those templates and resources galore, I'll share anything I have with you that might help you get started. And then what I think is the awesome part is I'm going to give you feedback and review of your content, an expert eye to tell you if it's landing or if it's right off the mark. I'm trying to go to the next slide. There you go. So here's what you get. You get help narrowing down your content project that you'll work on in the bootcamp. I will actually help you figure out, is this what you want to do? I will share with you my take you by the hand, step-by-step process to starting your big idea. I'll coach you around your blocks and blind spots. If it's fear, if it's getting started, if it's something else, I will help you get past that. Again, the templates and models for just about anything you could think of to create, that feedback, and then accountability from me and the group to keep you on track with your goals and commitments. That's why I only have 6 seats available, and it's because we come together as this amazing supportive group, and we help each other. We help keep everybody on target, and we know we're showing up to the group. And you're going to be able to create powerful content that's going to move you forward toward those big goals, those bigger business goals. And then what you really get, individual attention. It's not this humongous group training program where, you know, if you're lucky during a Q&A, you might get picked to ask your question. No, you will absolutely get time with me every time we come together and meet. You get live training, 2 online labs, 2 open Q&As that also include coaching, feedback on your particular project, access to all my templates and models, and your big idea gets some love, attention, and nurturing. We start April 12th and go for 2 weeks. And at the end of those 2 weeks, you'll have made progress on that big idea, like maybe you've never done before. You've gotten clarity. You've figured things out. You've got a plan, because then you'll know what the next steps are. So I invite you to check it out. Again, I only have 6 seats available, and I would love, 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 love to work with you. So, are you ready to get your big idea out into the world? Are you ready to stop letting fear stop you, or not sure of the next step to take? I'll help you figure out those steps. So I would love to work with you in the Content Creation Bootcamp. Again, we start April 12th. It's just a couple weeks away. Let's get you in the bootcamp, and let's get your big idea out to the world. Until next time, take care, and let's get that big idea out to the world. Bye-bye.